Welcome to Spook-Eats, where it's all about food, travel, and the supernatural. We travel the country, visiting haunted restaurants, bars, and hotels, trying the food, telling the ghost stories, and searching for spirits of all kinds. I founded Spook-Eats in 2018, but I've been exploring the paranormal for a lot longer than that. I saw my first ghost when I was 7 years old in my parents' house. By the time I was 14, I was actively reading books on all things strange and unusual. Ghosts, aliens, cryptids, even urban legends. And in 2004, I went on my very first ghost hunt in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. My equipment isn't the only thing that has evolved over the years. My reason for researching the supernatural has as well. In my early years of paranormal research, even into college where I studied anthropology, a socially acceptable way to study folklore, legends, and even death customs, I had an innocent curiosity about life and death and what might come next after we die. But all that changed in 2015. My little brother, Jed, passed away on April 8th, 2015, after an 8-month battle with pediatric cancer. And it was at that time where my innocent curiosity transformed into a desperate passion. I've traveled all over the world, having lived in places like Sweden, China, and Russia for several years. I've witnessed a Hindu funeral in Nepal. I've sipped on an ale next to the skull of a beheaded martyr in York. I've wandered the Edinburgh vaults. I studied the Viking runes and burial mounds in Gamla Uppsala. And most importantly, I've talked to people from all over the world about not only how they view death, but also what comes next. It was after my years of globe-trekking that I returned to the United States and focused on my own questions to find answers to my own burning questions, and possibly even feel a little closer to my brother. In my search to seek out the paranormal and find my own answers about the afterlife, I found that so many haunted locations are difficult for your average person to access. The places we see on TV shows, abandoned hospitals, orphanages, asylums, and jails, they were all touted as being haunted, and yet they are unattainable for an amateur investigator like me, even if I had been investigating off and on for over 10 years at that point. The paranormal was, and still is, barred from so many people. People just like me who were searching for their own answers about the paranormal and life after death. I grew frustrated that paranormal investigators would turn their noses up at ghost hunters, people just starting out in their paranormal journeys. I decided to bridge the gap between investigators and hunters and bring paranormal locations to the masses so everyone can go out and have their own haunted adventure and not just wait for someone on TV to tell them what to think or believe when it comes to ghosts and the paranormal. And so, in 2018, Spook-Eats was born. It's our belief here at Spook-Eats that the paranormal should be accessible to everyone, not just the famous ghost hunters that you see on TV. That's why we focus on haunted hospitality, restaurants, cafes, B&Bs, bars, and hotels. These are places that are already open to the general public and genuinely want you to come visit them. And many times, they have just as much history and just as many ghost stories as the infamous places everyone already knows about. And with heat, electricity, bathrooms, copious amounts of alcohol, and appetizers, why wouldn't you want to enjoy a night at a haunted pub rather than a haunted jail? From historic hotels to dive bars on the corners of small-town America, I've tracked down some of the best places to experience spirits of all kinds. Travel to Estes Park, Colorado, and order a red rum punch before venturing to room 217 at the Stanley Hotel, Stephen King's inspiration for the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. Test your luck at the Old Canal Inn in Nutley, New Jersey, and order the Death Seat Burger. They say the lonely bar stool near the front windows has killed 4 people who have sat in it. Whether you die of a heart attack from sitting on the stool or eating their Death Seat Burger is your own paranormal gamble. Walk in the footsteps of George Washington at the Eagle Hotel in Waterford, Pennsylvania, now home to an incredible Amish-style restaurant, and keep an eye out for moving silverware and even full-body apparitions. Enjoy a wine tasting at the winery at Margam Manor along the shores of Lake Ontario in New York, where each of their wines is inspired by their ghost story. From Lady of the Manor to Cordelia's Desire, each are part of the legend of Appleton Hall. My advice? Be sure to visit on a Thursday at 3 p.m. Whether you crave a good ghost story, some incredible history, delicious food, or the rush of travel, there is something for everyone at Spook-Eats. But don't think you have to smash your piggy bank and book a flight to Salem, New Orleans, or Savannah just yet. Of course, these are some of America's most haunted cities, with some of the best haunted restaurants and bars around. But you don't have to venture nearly that far to have your own paranormal adventure. Every town in America has its own history, and with history comes ghost stories. So I encourage you, turn off that generic paranormal show on TV, get off your couch and head out the door. With a little bit of research, you're bound to find those hidden gems in your neck of the woods. It could be that old hotel that's been in the center of town for as long as anyone can remember. It could be that corner bar where the floors are sticky with decades of spilled beer. Or even the innocent-looking family restaurant with connections to the mafia. Not every haunted location has to be abandoned or frightening. You'll find that there are plenty of haunted restaurants, bars, and hotels in your area with just as much history and sometimes even more hauntings than the places you'll see featured on TV. Many paranormal researchers believe that hauntings stem from energy. Generally, we hear about the negative energy that causes a haunting. It could be a battle like we see in Gettysburg, or fear and confusion at asylums like we see at Waverly Hills or Pennhurst. Negative and sad energy runs rampant in the places that we see on TV, such as those orphanages, those hospitals and jails. But negative energy isn't the only thing that can be absorbed by a place. Positive energy can be just as powerful and lead to just as potent a haunting. Taverns, pubs, bars, saloons, hotels. Many times these places are associated with positive experiences. Perhaps there's an old inn in your town that was where a group of soldiers spent their final night drinking and laughing before heading out to battle. After they died, they chose to return to their final happy memory, and in so doing, they have left a positive imprint on the property that patrons can feel for hundreds of years. Not all hauntings are negative or malicious, and you'll find that places of revelry, such as bars and restaurants, have a very different energy from an asylum or a jail. It's different, but just as powerful, and many times far more enjoyable. So I encourage you to embark on your own Spook-Eats adventure. If you need help, feel free to use Spook-Eats as a roadmap. I'll never tell you what to think or believe. It's entirely up to you to find your own answers to your personal questions about the afterlife. However, I'm happy to point you in the right direction. Over at SpookEats.com, you'll find articles highlighting different facets of the paranormal, from tips and tricks for investigating to spotlights on urban legends and ghost stories. And of course, we have our spooky destinations, which are my reviews of haunted locations from all over America, and even a few from across the pond as well. Separated into different regions, you can explore the Northeast, South, the Midwest, and the West, and learn about the history and hauntings of each of these locations. By the end, you'll also see my yummy rating and my spooky rating to know if this is a place that you really want to check out. For the yummy rating, I take into account the variety on the menu, balancing quality versus quantity and vice versa, as well as prices, service, and if the food is any good. And while I'm not a trained chef, I do know good food when I try it. You can rest assured that I am looking out for your average diner. So if you're paying a pretty penny, you'll know it's worth it. For the spooky rating, I focus on the ghost stories and how they connect with the actual history of the building, as well as how well the building has been preserved over the years. And yes, sometimes I do have experiences while visiting. If websites and social media aren't your thing, I have also written several books which might help you explore the paranormal, either in your own backyard or in other parts of the United States. My first book was released in December 2019 and is entitled A Haunted Atlas of Western New York. And it's exactly how it sounds. It's a survey of over 130 haunted locations scattered throughout Western New York. There are, of course, haunted restaurants, bars, and hotels, as well as haunted roads, cemeteries, hospitals, and even some cryptids thrown in just for fun. With coordinates, walking and driving tours, and even a spooky bucket list to keep track of your progress, the Haunted Atlas is the perfect roadmap for you to use to set your own course and explore the haunted history of Western New York. I've recently begun a new series focusing once more on haunted hospitality, but not just in New York, but all over the country. Book 1 of the Spirit Guide series is set to be unleashed on the world in July 2020. Because I'm currently pregnant and a glutton for punishment, I've decided to highlight some of America's most haunted breweries, distilleries, and wineries. From Pennsylvania to Virginia, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Oregon, you'll get to know the unique history of 30 locations. Some have ties to Prohibition and the mob, while others have witnessed the Civil War. Some offer traditional brews, while others are experimenting and turning aging, brewing, and distilling on its head. All I'll say is that one of these places has a Rocky Mountain oyster stout. Yes, that kind of Rocky Mountain oyster. Whether you're a wino, a paranormal enthusiast, or a history nerd, this book is another perfect roadmap for you to take with you on your adventures, break the binding, and take notes in the margins. I even expect the pages to get sticky from spilled beer or bourbon. So again, I encourage you to take your paranormal journey into your own hands and explore the unknown. Find those haunted restaurants and dig into its history while enjoying your appetizer platter. Order that overpriced cocktail inspired by a haunted bar's ghost story. Dare to spend the night in the most haunted room in a haunted hotel. And above all, ask questions. Many times, the waitstaff and other employees have enough stories to make your head spin, and in the process, might even help shed some light onto your paranormal questions. It's easy to feel isolated and alone when we think of our paranormal experiences. Yet once we bridge the subject and begin sharing tales, we quickly learn that we're not alone. Everyone has at least one good ghost story. Whether you saw a lady in white hitchhiking along the side of the road years ago, or your crazy Uncle Ned once saw a ghost ship out on Lake Superior. And when we share our ghost stories, we realize that perhaps we aren't quite as alone as we thought. The paranormal is constantly happening around us. It's just up to us to notice it. So find your roadmap, whether it's a Spook-Eats book or not, and set out on a haunted adventure. After all, history belongs to everyone. Haunted history belongs to the weirdos. Welcome to Spook-Eats. I hope you find what you're looking for. For more information on Spook-Eats and how you can create your own paranormal adventure, you can find us at SpookEats.com, as well as at SpookEats on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Happy haunting!